everybody. This is Brent. Well, actually, let's hit the recording button.
All right. Thank you.
And do we have the live broad stream going, or?
We do. Lindsay, we're starting.
Terrific. Good evening, everyone. This is Brendan Magnan, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 20th, 2024 Milford Inland's Wetlands Agency regular meeting. Lisa, we do have one regret. That's Mr. Matthew Connors. Could you please call the roll?
Daniel Bedecker.
Yeah.
Ranjit Bahav.
Aye.
Brian Black.
Here.
Jim Connors.
Here.
Matthew Connors. Buddy Field.
Here.
Steve Munson.
Here.
Nick Ritchie.
Here.
Julie Valvo.
Here.
Brendan Magnan.
And I'm here. Thank you, Lisa. As a reminder for all participating, and actually, pardon me, before I do that, Mr. Field, I'm going to designate you as the voting alternate this evening, please.
Okay.
Thank you. As we continue to host remote meetings, I just want to remind everyone that this meeting will be recorded and made available on the City of Milford website in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act and Governor Lamont's executive orders. It's actually being broadcast on YouTube as well. If anyone would like to be recognized by me, the chair, please do so by letting me know. Either use the Zoom feature or just wave your hand, and I'll invite you to speak. Only speak to the agency jurisdiction, please, and only through me as the chair. Please, could I have everyone unmute themselves, stand, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the
republic
for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody.
Visible.
And I think Steve might be on a slight delay. You can hear me? Yeah, he seems like he is having a computer problem. Steve, I just heard some feedback from you. So are you live? Okay. He seems to be caught up. His video streaming was delayed, I think. Okay, so let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Is there anyone here from the public that would wish to address the agency on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Is there anyone here from the public that would wish to be recognized on topics not otherwise on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll move on to old business. Mary Rose, could you introduce this item, please?
Sure. This is item D1. It's IWC 230014. It's 68 Surf Avenue and the City of Milford Willow Street right-of-way. As you may remember, this is a violation that was issued 12/28/23 for a work in a wetland in a 100-foot upland review area without a permit at 68 Surf Avenue. At our meeting in February 21st, the agency modified the violation to require a map or sketch or drawing showing the structures and improvements be submitted by March 14th for determination.
Mary, sorry to interrupt, but Mr. Cargioli, okay.
Carangelo and Mr. Field, can you put yourselves on mute?
Please mute your lines. There's feedback we're getting from you.
Turn my volume down.
Just mute yourself.
Mute.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, everyone. So the agency had asked the city engineer review the Willow Street right-of-way as well, to ensure that the improvements that they are being asked to permit are on the property at 68 Surf Avenue. The engineering surveyed and staked the right-of-way line on 30424. on 3/13/24, I met with John Shea, that's Liz McDonald's husband, who submitted a site sketch using maps from the adjoining properties as references. Mr. Shea acknowledged that the right-of-way stake that was set by engineering is behind their shed, and that they are about 6 feet into the paper street. Mr. Shea said that they were interested in seeking abandonment of the paper street, but will need to discuss it with the neighbors. Engineering chief's photos of the pins are in the meeting documents. And I can share that now so you can see the map
Please do.
and those pins.
And this was done on 3/24, March 24th. No,
No, Mr. Shea submitted the paperwork on the 13th. It was, the agency had asked for it by the 14th.
when was the engineering field work done?
It was done on March 4th. Mr. Shea was available. He was on site when the engineering chief, Rob Saley, was on site.
March 4th. That was the date that I was just trying to confirm. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a reminder of this is the property where the pin is and the yard. We go on to the next site. These are the plans submitted by Mr. Shea. This is based on a survey that was done by Codisponi and Associates for the property next door at 74 Surf Avenue. And so this was the property line as assessed at that time by that surveyor. And this was the Willow Street right of way. So what Mr. Shea did is he took that and a map for, I believe it's 62 Surf Avenue, the property to the left, and superimposed his property on it. Some of the measurements may have been there from the previous survey, and then he drew in the things that he's added. They've got a lean-to with wood and such. He's got a shed here, little shed here, the garden bed, a gazebo, the pool, and the other raised bed gardens. Mr. Shea also added, as you can see right here, the surveying pin that was set by Mr. Saley on the 4th of March. The documents tab, here's the witness stake set by the Engineering Bureau. And this is the shed. And as you can see, this is about 6 feet to the fence, which is right out of the picture frame right here.
Sorry, can you just slow down a little bit, Mary Rose?
I'm sorry.
Can you just slow down and show us, okay, in relation to this photo, where is it on the map?
This I will zoom in. This is that shed.
Okay,
You're looking at it from this angle coming towards here. And this point here in the green by the tree is the witness stake set by Mr. Saley.
got it.
The next photo is a point Mr. Shea had said he was aware of. It's a pin that's in there, a PK nail that's in their driveway. And that would be, oops, sorry, this doesn't move that way. Over in here somewhere. And then the last stake that was set by Mr. Saley is right by the sidewalk. This is Surf Avenue. This is the Shea's driveway. I'm sorry, the McDonald's driveway. And that would be this stake right in about this area here. Okay. Right. So when I met with Mr. Shea on the 13th, they acknowledged that they're about 6 feet into the paper street. They're interested in seeking abandonment of the paper street. Need to discuss that with the neighbor. Procedure for that is to approach the city. Typically, they would need to get a survey of the property and discuss with the city attorney's office the process and any fees. An issue in this for this particular property is that there is a city parcel behind number 74 Surf Avenue, and the city can't sell or abandon a street that would make this property landlocked. So those items just need to be worked out.
Understood.
So in my notes, city can't permit structures that are not on applicant's property without the owner's permission. So we can't permit the shed or the raised bed garden because we're not sure about ownership. The submitted sketch on the Code Associates drawing for 74 Surf shows the location of title and inland wetland line, up to the right of way. This is the inland wetland line, and this is the tidal wetland line. So, we may alternately have other issues with the shed and some other improvements, depending upon if it's within our review area and if it's an allowable use under Section 4. The wetlands on the Shea property are unknown. The wetlands may fall off to the back. We don't have contour or wetland lines to know that answer. Given that the wetlands lines are here, these structures are all within 100 feet of an inland wetland and would require our review. Some improvements may or may not be in tidal wetlands. Again, that's an unknown. I believe I let Ms. McDonald into the meeting, Mr. Chairman, for any questions or comments.
Yes, I see Ms. McDonald. Would you like to add anything to the record?
I don't really have anything to add at this time other than, what do we need to do to satisfy the situation? I'm kind of I don't know what you want me to do at this point.
Yeah, I think as Mary Rose just reported, we would need to defer until you resolve the disposition of the paper street. But we're not permitted to allow you to have these structures in those locations until such time that issue gets resolved. And if for some reason you don't acquire that paper street, then you're not on your property, so we wouldn't be permitted to release the violation. So you would have no other recourse but to move the features that are not on your property. That would be my best understanding. Mary Rose, did I capture that correctly, or is there anything else I missed? Or
Right, the agency won't be able to. We had talked earlier on about allowing the gardening and other things for uses as of right under Section 4.
right.
Just needing to know where they were. But we can't do that if they're not on their property because they don't have the owner's permission. So you would need the city to allow that. And the way they would allow that is if you talk to them about either abandoning the street or working something out with the street. And until you have that conversation with the city attorney's office, I don't know what that resolution would be. The agency has an active violation. We can set a date, out into the future, into the summer, to give you time to talk to the city attorney's office, talk to the neighbors, see what you want to do with the paper street. But we need to resolve the violation or move it across the street.
So
we don't have another resolution.
we would to expedite closing this case out, we would consider and probably be willing to move the shed and the fence the 6 feet, so that the paper street is not an issue. So I'd like to put that out on the table. We didn't, it was not an intentional encroachment. Like I had previous meetings, we'd kind of followed what other past owners had done with the fence. I'm concerned that the acquisition of this paper street is going to take an exorbitant amount of time. And so I'm just stop talking there. Like if we want to make a plan to do that, and then in the future, if we want to pursue paper street, we could do that once this situation's resolved.
Certainly in your purview to do that. I'm gonna invite others to comment, but directionally, yeah, I think that's that would simplify our process, because I don't think given what we've talked about collectively over the course of multiple meetings, there's an issue with the garden bed in the sort of where the pool was. I think I believe from recollection, that's consensus that is a permitted right of use. I'd open it up for others to weigh in on this. Anyone?
Well, yeah, Brendan, to you, Roy Rose, that would probably be the simplest solution if they just move that planting area and the shed and put the fence on the property line if they can. And it resolves the issue to down the road if they can acquire that street. Does that solve the problem?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the agency's discretion, moving the shed onto the property resolves that issue. The wetland line from the previous survey that we've got on the screen here, ends, probably didn't end at the shed, it probably ended at the fence. The drawing's close. So moving the shed in, we probably want to try to move that up so it's not in a wetland proper. We don't know what the
wetland area.
yeah, we don't know what between this point here and this point here and somewhere in between is the difference between an inland wetland and a tidal wetland. You know, I don't know how they go. This one seems to have a trajectory. It may have been filled way in the past. So this may all be inland. It may be all fill and upland. I don't know. So the agency needs to consider what uses are available as a gardening use or a farming use under Section 4.
Except for farming use. Oh, go ahead, Brandon.
No, go ahead. I was going to ask a
I
question.
was going to say, except for a farming use exemption, if they were to move that stuff forward and in, but yet we don't know where the wetland line is, so they probably have to get a wetland scientist there to do a current wetland line. Correct me if I'm wrong.
We're also willing to eliminate that shed. It's a temporary shed. It was not permanently installed. Like I'm still in the same position that we can't afford a wetland survey. So would just eliminate that shed and have it be a non-issue.
That simplifies the problem.
How about the planting area?
Planting areas, through you, Mr. Chairman, planting areas could be considered a gardening use.
Right.
I don't know that the planting areas would need to be moved. I can't speak if they are actually in tidal wetlands. I don't know that the state has interest. But garden bed in an inland wetland could be considered by this agency to be an allowable use.
I'd be fine with that.
So if they move that onto their property and get rid of that other shed, and they're off the city paper street along with the fence, would that resolve their problem?
Sounds like that, so long as we agree that the garden beds constitute a right of use under Section 4, which I would be a fan of.
Yeah, I think that we kind of had consensus on that a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Thanks.
Now, what about the fence? Would the fence have to move further beyond? Like, would it have to go further into the property line to satisfy the wetlands? Or can it just go right to the property line?
The fence can go to the property line. We typically don't have an issue with fences. You know, critters can get under them. and maybe deer can't get over them, but deer are plenty happy in the park. So the fence would have to come in. I know Mr. Saley put this pin in.
Mhm.
I don't believe he put a pin in the back. We can ask him to go out and put a pin in the back so we know where we're going. With the
I
rear.
like that idea. I think that would be, I'm sure that would alleviate any doubt for the homeowner. I'm assuming, Ms. McDonald, you would welcome that suggestion? That's a thumbs up, yeah. Sounds like that approach is going to resolve the violation in the most effective way. I like the breakthrough thinking.
So
When we,
Sorry, go ahead, Ms. McDonald.
go ahead.
okay, so to that end, can we set a timeline for when we will have that work done? I think I think a month is reasonable, giving weather considerations and our work schedules. Is that okay with you, John? A month? Yeah. Is that agreeable to the committee?
That's, I think it's through you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I think a month or even 5 or 6 weeks. I understand that's a lot of work for you to do that, and you've got other commitments. Is the agency okay with that? We've got a lot of rain coming up in the next
Yeah,
4 weeks.
The fair time frame, and then come back in a month. And the picture showing that it's been moved to the property line, showing us the city states, and that should resolve the problem, like, in my opinion.
I agree.
So Mary Rose, John has actually asked for that 6-week time frame. He's just sitting right outside the camera here. And he wants to know, in the meantime, this is the time where he would normally start his greenhouse plantings to get the gardens going. Are we okay to do that? While he's doing the fence stuff.
Right.
You just wanted to make sure it's okay to carry
Right.
on with the gardening.
Through you, Mr. Chair. It sounds like the agency is amenable to the garden beds, and the greenhouse, I think, could be looked at as a garden, necessary for the garden structure, for the garden function, farming function. I apologize. So I don't see any problem with starting gardening. I'll try to get engineering out there as quickly as possible so you know where the back corner is if you have to move the R at all. So that doesn't impact your timeline.
Terrific. I'd be happy to give you, a range, 6 to 8 weeks, to permit some slippage and weather conditions, etc. So,
Okay, so that's the end of April.
Actually, that could bring us to about May 9th, and then we could take it up at the May 15th meeting. And then if there's any, through you, Mr. Chair, if this is allowable, if there's any issues due to weather or moving things, you can let me know, send me an email, a formal email, and I can just tell the agency that you're working on it and you need to move a little forward.
yeah,
I mean, we're going to get 2.5 inches of rain on Saturday, so it's going to be a little bit before you're working back there.
sounds good. So, Maros, do you think we should have a motion to this effect?
Right. I want to just confirm that the agency wants the shed removed from the apparent wetland area.
Confirmed.
Confirmed.
And
I
the
moved the raised garden onto their property.
and move the shed and garden onto the
It's-
McDonald property.
Just to be clear, it's removing the shed altogether,
Move the shed,
removing, or
removing. Got it.
eliminating it, getting rid of
Got
it.
it.
Whereas
Right.
the other structure is going to be relocated.
So we're removing this shed here,
Correct.
and this is just a temporary shed, so that's being removed? Or stay,
I don't think we're talking about that one.
okay,
That's on their property, so.
that's on their property, but we're looking at the wetland.
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, I hear you.
And this is the greenhouse, and that's where he's gonna start his plants, as well as the gardens. So we're looking at removing this shed and moving the other structures onto the property.
Correct. Any opposition to the temporary shed staying as is? And hold that question, Mr. Ricky. Go ahead. You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Gotta unmute yourself.
Is the fence going to be set back to the property line also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'd like to actually clarify that point, just so we're super clear, because Mary Rose had said that the fence can run along the property line.
Correct.
Yes.
John also wanted me to clarify, while he does the work of moving the fence, that there's not going to be any problems with him doing that work, like that if he's stepping into the paper street to move the fence, that kind of thing.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, no, there'd be no issue while you're legalizing your work. You're making your property more conforming.
Mr. Ritchie, oh, yeah, you lowered your hand. Okay, didn't know if you had another question. Is there any objection to the temporary shed staying where it is, the one in the middle? If
I
there's no-
don't see any problem with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. It's there.
Either. It's fine.
Fine. Yeah, I would say that would fall into section 4, part of the farming.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It's de minimis. Okay. Mary Rose, we clear on that?
So, I had written for you, obviously, Chinese menu of motions. The first was no action. The second was that the cease and desist be modified. And I added a date of by May 9th, understanding that that's a target date that we hope to have everything done by, if we have good weather. And that the property owners be required to remove the shed, move the temporary shed and garden onto the McDonald property, and the fence to be moved back to the property line. Is that
Can you just repeat that again? Because I just want to make sure it's correct.
right? Sure. Hold on 1 second. To remove the shed. It's I guess it's a 12 by 7 by 7 shed.
Yeah, that's right.
Move the temporary shed and garden onto the McDonald property. The temporary shed is shown right on the line. I don't know where the property line runs. It may go out and leave. The R garden might be fine, and the shed might be fine. It might come back in the other way. I don't know where it is. So if this needs to be moved, I want to be able to give them permission to do that.
That's the 6 by 9 shed.
Right,
Yeah. Moved onto their property where it happens to be.
right.
Right.
And the garden, our garden, onto the McDonald property. And the fence to be moved back to the property line.
Right. And Ms. McDonald, you heard the conditions that we just discussed. Are we
Yeah.
aligned on those before we make a
I'm
motion?
fine with that. I'm fine with that. I'll make that motion, but Mary
Sorry.
Rose just
Sorry,
said
Mr.
it.
Connors. Oh, Mr. Connors, hang on just 1 second.
Okay,
Just want to promote alignment with Ms. McDonald. Are we absolutely aligned on these Is it clear? Are there any doubts before we formalize this into motion?
Yes, we're in agreement.
Great. Mr. Connors?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that Mary Rose just read.
That is your motion.
I'll second.
Second, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, the only discussion I just want to be certain about is when we say removal of the 12x7 shed, that's complete removal, destruction, off the property, no longer part of this site. Not relocated. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, Lisa, roll call vote, please.
Daniel Bediger,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Buddy Field,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Ms. McDonald, thanks for the conversation this evening. Mary Rose will be issuing a letter of instruction aligned with what we've just discussed. Thank you. Moving on to the next item, Mary Rose, new business, E1. If you could introduce this one, please.
This is a pre-application for 149 Castle Lane. It's, a second, I'm just going to share my screen so you can see the location. This is an aerial view. This is the house here. It's a pre-application for 149 Castle Lane for the installation of a 16 by 32 foot in-ground pool with a concrete surround and associated grading and appurtenance work within 100 feet of a wetland in the South Central Shoreline Watershed by Frank Carangelo. On your screen right now is an aerial view from the city GIS of the house. This is the house. The proposed pool location is about where my cursor is circling right now. I visited the site on 3/14, and my site walk notes and photos were in the meeting documents. This gives you a side view of the side yard. And if you can just see the stakes right here, this is the proposed location of the pool. The site is located next to wetlands associated with Pen Meadow Creek, which is beyond the reeds over here. A freshwater creek that turns brackish to tidal in this area. There's no soil report on file for the property. Mr. Carangelo has submitted sketches for the proposed pool location behind the house. He is proposing to have the pool level with the existing concrete patio and using fill from the excavation to fill in and grade the area around the pool and yard. The silt fencing location that's in the photos is approximate as the silt fence is not properly buried per the Connecticut DEP 2023 erosion and sedimentation control manual. It is only held down by concrete bricks, so it's just approximate to show you about where it would be. Just to go back to the aerial view, this is Pen Meadow Creek. It goes down behind Penn School and out to Long Island Sound. Up here, it goes up to some open space from the city. And we're in city open space in this blue area where my cursor is now. So the pool location is here. This is approximately, if you can see this, unfortunately, very light line is about elevation 10. The elevation for the creek is elevation 4. And we are in a FEMA flood zone. I think we're in FEMA 10. If flood zones are working tonight, maybe not. So Pen Meadow Creek and the associated wetlands appear to be less than 40 feet from the proposed pool location, with grading between the elevated pool and the silt fencing. There's a hedgerow behind the silt fencing. Between the hedgerow and Calf Pen Meadow Creek, there appears to be wetlands. The approximate elevations, as I just said, show the creek at about 4 and the proposed pool to be at about 10. Sorry to zoom in so quickly for you there. If we go back to the photos. So these stakes, which are unfortunately very light here, would be the edge of the pool. The pool equipment heater generator would be over here to the side of the building. The silt fence is here, and the wetlands are somewhere back here, and city property, open space, and the creek are beyond that. Here's a close-up of the silt fence and the area, and the creek is kind of over in here. I was there when it was low tide, so there's not a lot of visibility of the creek. It's a little bit better shot showing the 4 corners of the pool. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This area would be raised. The pool would be equal with this concrete. Mr. Carangelo is proposing to feather in some of the fill between the pool and the silt fencing. The rest is proposed to be stored on the side yard and then trucked off site. Looking over the silt fence, we probably have wetlands in this area here, and there's Calf Pen Meadow Creek. Longer view of the same shot with the cut trees, wetlands, and the creek. And looking the opposite direction, the home with the concrete. And this would be 1, 2, 3, and the other stake is out of view. This shows you a little bit more of the grade that would be necessary. This is going to have to be elevated up and then brought down. And a little bit more close up of that grade. Okay, I think that's the last one.
I have
Okay,
a
and
question for
Mr.
Mary Rose.
Carangelo, yes.
Do you have any issues with this?
I have concerns with the amount of excavation that close without actually knowing where the wetland line is. And concerns with, concerns with work in the flood zone belong to the flood administrator. But I'm a little concerned with the feathering in of the soil that close to the wetland line.
Phil? Yeah.
And not actually having the wetland line.
Would probably another question that is irrelevant. Would they be better with above ground pool there being in a flood zone than an in-ground pool?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is what's been proposed. I think there used to be an above ground pool here. In one of the photos, you can see there's an electrical outlet. And this is what's proposed. Above ground pools, if it gets flooded, it doesn't change the flow of water. It just goes over the top of the pool.
Okay.
Mayor, I have a question as well. Why is the silt fence already up?
I think Mr. Carangelo is here, but I think he wanted to show where it would be, and he's anxious to get started.
Mr. Carangelo, sorry, I can't say your last name. If you can help me with your last name. Carangelo.
Yes,
It's Carangelo, and I'm his wife. I'm here too. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Carangelo, thank you. Can you guys tell us a little bit more about what your intentions are with respect to the application you heard, Mary Rose? Is there anything more that you'd like to add to the record for the agency to consider?
We just want to do whatever we have to get our pool in. We'll do everything to follow your guidelines. We'll haul the dirt out. We are not going to put anything in the wetlands. We love our view.
yeah, we have no intentions of doing anything outside of our property lines. That hedge Mary Rose was referring to is actually not even the property line. We probably own maybe, I'm going to say 8 to 10 feet beyond that. But it's not developed. It was never really developed, and I don't really need to go out that far. And I put the barrier up just to show what we plan on doing, even though it might look like I'm jumping the gun. We just wanted to put a good foot forward, and if there's anything else required, I'll do it. But we just decided to do that for now, just to give you an idea.
Thank you. Mayor Rose, as you mentioned at the onset of this item, this is a pre-application. So is it your recommendation that this be presented as a full application? In the event we have an appetite to move on this, we would need it to be a full application, correct? We couldn't.
We can't hear you clearly because there's a dog barking and we're trying to hear you.
A full application, you said something about?
Right, through you, Mr. Chair, to clarify for the Carangelos. The agency accepts you as a pre-application, and they can consider you as a use permitted as a right, or they can require a full application. Under a full application, the agency can condition things like silt fence and that excess soil has to be trucked off site, and plantings and stabilization, and as-built, anything like that. But with a jurisdictional ruling, there can be no conditions. We can hope that you'll do the right thing. We can cite you if you don't, but there's no conditions. So I would believe with this proximity to the wetlands and the creek, I think it would be prudent to have this be a full application so that it can be properly conditioned. The agency's decision would be if they need additional, more accurate information upon which to make a decision.
And Brandon, through your Mary Rose, I have a question.
Pardon me, sorry, let me just give the floor to Mr. Jim Connors.
I have a question. How large a patio are you going to make around this pool?
Well, it would be various widths, like between the house and the pool, it would probably be an additional 6 feet. And then on the back side of the pool, it would be a narrow patio. I really don't need to have a wide patio behind the pool.
Near the wetland.
So I wouldn't go out that far. I might only do maybe 3 feet.
On the back side of the pool, how far is it coming out of the ground? That you're going to grade the fill?
How high will the pool stick above ground?
Yeah, before you fill it. In other words, you're doing an in-ground pool. How deep is the pool?
It's not very deep. We're doing more of a shallow pool. So the low end is going to be 3 feet, and then it's going to taper down to 4 feet in the middle, and the deep end is going to be 5 feet. So it's more of a shallow pool. We're not taking chances with the wetlands by going deeper. But we feel that won't be a problem.
Okay, well, what is the drop off? In other words, from the house side of the pool to the wetland side of the pool, how much topography drop off is there in the property? Foot, 2 feet?
I would say it's going to be different in different areas, obviously, but it's going to be somewhere between 2 feet, 28 inches, the low end compared to the high end. So the pool would be somewhat above ground before it gets filled in on the incline. But like I said, the ground is uneven right now, so some areas you might be a foot, some areas you might be 2 feet, but not too much more than that.
Yeah. Just a suggestion, it's a pre-app. You ever think of a retaining wall on the backside of pool, so you don't have to grade towards the wetlands. And use the excess fill that comes out of the pool to fill that. Because you're gonna want a flat area to have a patio.
It would be more expensive to do that, a retaining wall. But I was hoping that I wouldn't have to go that route, but
I don't know if we can afford that.
so I think I have enough room to taper it down. And like I said, the hedge isn't my property line, but I really, if I had to move the property line back a little more, I could.
But we have no intention of doing that.
But we don't have to do that. I feel we could just do the grading down, you know. There's several built-in pools in my neighborhood. Actually, I think there's 10 or 11 on my street alone.
On this side, towards
And
the wetland.
they've all done pretty much the same thing, you know,
2 houses down, they just did one,
same size pool.
last year or the year before.
It was about more like 4 or 5 years ago,
Oh, okay.
but they have wetlands up against their property line as well.
May I ask a question through Mary Rose as the chair?
Yes, Mr. Field, go ahead.
There's a lot of questions involved that, you know, even the applicant said that they're unsure of certain things and we're unsure of certain things. And from past experience, I think one of the maybe, and this is just a suggestion, is because there are so many variables out there. Maybe a consideration would be to do a survey and show what is proposed and what's existing. So that way we know exactly what we're dealing with. And that way it takes out a lot of questions and it also protects both the applicant.
That's a lot more money for us, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
That's a lot more money for us.
Excuse me, I did not give the floor to you yet. Please let Mr.
Oh,
Field.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
So that way it protects not only the applicant, because a lot of times, you know, things start out a certain way and people think elevations or distances are a certain thing. And then when something's constructed, it turns out it could be different. Where a survey, knowing the present conditions, could basically, if there are problems in the beginning or what could become problems, might head it off. That's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Field.
Good suggestion.
It's a great suggestion. I think there's enough concern by the agency from the consensus and the conversations that we would want this to be a full app.
How long, do we have the floor? Can we have the floor?
Yes.
How long, what is that process, like this full app? We're not familiar. It's our first time doing this.
No problem. And I would just say that any kind of application like this would, by precedent, be treated as a full application. So that while there's been a reference to other pools being installed, anytime this kind of application comes before Mary Rose, she will confer with this team and will make those judgment calls based on the facts presented at the time. So I would just be careful about sort of comparing your property to others.
Okay.
But Mary Rose can give you an overview of the process. If Mary Rose, you want to maybe take the applicant through the process at a high level?
Sure. This pre-application is a first meeting. The agency can tell you that they've considered it an application, ask for any other information that they may want or need under the statutes to make an informed decision. And they would take that up at the next meeting. So you would be noticed tonight that you were on the agenda. After 14 days, they can look at your information and make a decision on whether they need more information or if they've got enough information and that they can decide on your application. So full application means you have to go to at least 2 meetings under the statute to give, you know, anybody notice who may care if you're building a house or building a whatever, that they can come to a meeting and see what's happening or look at the file. So full application means you just have to come back in 2 weeks But it has a standard. I'm not sure that the plans that we have, and we had this discussion in the office. I'm not sure the plans you have enough information to show us how close to the wetlands you're doing work. And for us to know when you're finished, if that work was done to what we approved.
Okay, so would you give us, are you gonna, like, after we talk to you tomorrow or something, are you gonna give us like paperwork that we have to fill out?
Well, you
So
filled
we
out
can
paper,
answer these questions?
I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. You filled out paperwork online, and that is your pre-application. Click a button tomorrow morning and that'll turn it, the agency's still considering it. It's a full application. The agency tonight will decide if they want any additional information to clarify this for you. They want to know how much fill is going to be put in the yard and how much is going to be tucked off. If they want to see how far out the concrete surround or the retaining wall. I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if this stake demarks the pool or the edge of the concrete. I don't know.
Yeah, and let me just try to help for the sake of the homeowner. We would expect, a survey and a land survey and a properly engineered plan. So we can't say, hey, you have to work with company XYZ, but we would expect you to hire a third party to do that and bring those details before us.
Is there any way the city engineer can do that? Because that's so costly to us.
No, that's a private, if this is a private property, you would need to incur that cost.
And that's thousands, I think it's like a few $1,000s additional, and then we maybe get turned down.
So I don't know, if Mr. Field, do you want to kind of explain, you have construction background, maybe you could help explain sort of the thought process around this and what they might consider?
Sure. Kind of look at it this way. It's a lot easier to correct a mistake on paper than as if it's made out in the field. So this is not as per se if you're building a shed and say the shed's put in the wrong place or the wrong elevation and you can easily move the shed. This is a pool. So, and this is not only to protect the resources in the area, it's also protect you. So you want to make sure the amount of investment you're going to put into this pool, that you want to make sure it's put in the right place, the correct place, and it's done correctly. And that's not to say the company you hired doesn't do a great job, and I'm sure they will, but it's like a roadmap. It's like when your house was originally built, they had plans, a survey where the house would be, and they wanted to make sure the house was not put in the wrong place or anything like that. And this is kind of the same with a pool. And it's just there that you want to make sure that everything is done correctly. It's just to protect all parties involved. And there are many engineers out there that you can get for this, for a survey.
Thank you, Mr. Field. And I think that's where Mr. Connors was coming from as well.
And I'd like to add one thing into that, if I may.
Please.
In a survey, they'll do grade elevations there. So you will know how much fill is coming out of that pool and how much fill is going to go around the pool and then what your grade off is going to be. And, the steeper the grade, the worse it's going to be. So, and then when you're in a floodplain, you don't want a lot of water washing that fill away or creating somewhat of a dam from your neighbor's property when that water comes up against your property. That's just
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of really important considerations that you want to take the time to, as Mr. Field said, invest in this resource. You want it to be designed fit for purpose. This agency is not here to design your application, nor is the city of Milford. It's incumbent upon you to do that. We're giving you sort of directional information that we would not be able to entertain approving this without such a design. So you're at choice. You can either withdraw the application or you can, invest in a design plan that is commensurate with the complexity of the application. We'll certainly give you the opportunity to do any of that, and you can always talk to Mary Rose one-on-one in the office tomorrow. I realize this is a lot of information and it's probably a new process, but we're speaking from years of experience having seen these properties. That's why I invited certain members of the commission to offer their expertise, because they have this know-how and this expertise and are Milford citizens. So they're putting themselves in your shoes.
Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, but the other survey.
Well, years ago, I do insurance for a living, and years ago I did a map amendment here, and there was a wonderful city engineer at the time that did come out, and he did do some work for me. So I'm going to probably try to pull that paperwork out, but we'll have to talk to, I guess, Mary Rose. We are in a little bit of a time constraint ourselves. I understand we want to do everything to code, to your rules. We don't want to do anything that's going to make, our property sink or anything like that. But we just don't want to keep being delayed. We were supposed to be in the meeting 2 weeks ago, and we didn't get in. So will we definitely get in next week? But we'll probably, in 2 weeks. We probably won't even be able to get a surveyor out by then, is what I'm thinking. And, the money too.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to add? Because otherwise, I think we've been clear about our expectations and we can move on.
Do you want to add anything else?
I don't know what else that we can do.
Maria Rose, can we call you tomorrow? Will you be in the office?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I do need to apologize to the agency. The Carangelos did need to be on the last agenda. I had a family emergency and wasn't in the office. But I will be in the office tomorrow, and I can't do anything more than apologize for not being here a couple of weeks ago.
No worries about that.
No,
We
it's
just want to
okay.
make sure we could talk to you tomorrow, and we'll get into that meeting in 2 weeks.
Yep, once you're on the agenda, you stay on the agenda until the agency makes a decision or you withdraw.
Okay.
And
All right, then.
to your other point, it doesn't make sense for us to consider it until you have a design, an official design.
Mm-hmm.
So my point is, while it could be on the agenda next meeting, unless you have the proper design, we won't entertain. We won't be in a position to entertain approving it at that time. Just to
Okay,
set,
is there any,
just
we
to
do
set
have one more
realistic
question.
expectations.
if we put a wall in, this retaining wall, would that change anything as far as making it easier to move forward?
For you, Mr. Chair, you would still need a design for that wall, and you'd have to get that wall
Okay.
approved. Given your position in the landscape, you would need to be sure you're not near a tidal wetland and in a flood zone, because walls, even for pools, can be, we've just found out, could be considered some type of erosion control structure that DEP can't allow. So,
Okay,
you
so if
need
we're
to
gonna do that.
know where you are in the landscape.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for the consideration.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening. Mayor Rose, moving on to the next agenda item, please.
All right.
I think
Consideration of
I'm-
minutes of the previous meeting.
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve from the previous meeting?
Let's
I'll
hear it.
motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I second it.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Thank you, Mr. Field. Motion has been made and seconded. Do we have any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
Aye.
Buddy Field,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. I just want to make a clarification. Mr. Munson, you were at the meeting last meeting, weren't you?
Mhm.
Because I just observed you were listed as absent, but I think that's a Scribner's error.
No, I believe Mr. Munson was, I believe he's frozen right now, unfortunately, but
For some reason, I thought he was at the meeting. I could be wrong. Mr.
no, I
Munson,
don't believe he was.
okay. Mr. Munson, you were not at the last meeting? For some reason, I thought he was. Okay, moving on. Next agenda item we believe is staff report.
Staff report, sorry.
I'm sorry, I mean, Cameron. I'm having a problem. My computer cut out of the meeting a couple of times. I
Yes.
only heard about half of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's some-
I don't know what it is. I think it's me, not you.
Correct. It's only isolated to you.
Wasn't sure.
You may
Things are
want to, through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Munson, if you turn your video off, you may get, while we prefer to have video on. If you turn your video off, you may be able to hear clearly.
Okay.
Yeah, try
Um,
that. So,
okay.
Munson, I was just merely asking. I thought for some reason you were at the last meeting, but you were listed as absent, and I was just sort of wanting to.
Yeah. As far as voting for the minutes of the last meeting, I would abstain to that. I was not at the last meeting.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you for confirming that. Lisa, you got that?
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Right, staff report. Mary Rose.
Staff report, sorry, I got lost in the, we did not make a motion on 149 Castle Lane. We just informed the folks that we would need additional information.
Correct.
Okay.
And yes, and it needs to be a full application.
Offices continues to be busy. We've got a lot of inquiries. There's a lot of water everywhere. We're working with Public Works on areas that may be backed up, but in general, there's a lot of water in the ground and in the local streams and ponds, and we're getting more today and on Saturday. In the notes, I've got information about some training that are coming up on the 4th of April. I sent out an email. There's vernal pool training in Greenwich. It's being led by Denise Savigno and Michael Aurelia, who are the former Conservation Commission chair and Wetlands chair directors for the city of Greenwich. So that is a field opportunity at the Autobahn in Greenwich, rain or shine, on Saturday, April 6th. Another training that is either virtual or in person and may or may not speak to all the members is a Connecticut DEP Beach Association Guide to Coastal Activities and Permitting. It's a presentation that'll be held on the evening of Thursday, April 4th. Both virtually and at the Fairfield Fire Training School. There's links to both of those meetings in my notes, and I believe I asked staff to put it into the commissioner's link. We have some congratulations for Commissioner Black and Commissioner Ricky that they attained their DEP commissioner training certificates. Thank you very much for attending the training expeditiously. Reminder, if anyone else would like a refresher, that's an online class. You can sign in at any time and retake or get a refresher. There's also Land Use Academy training. There's some virtual, there's some online modules, and in the notes, there's some in-person trainings. I think one is Saturday, April 7th, and I believe that's in Middlesex at the Extension Center. The bills that we spoke about at the last meeting continue to move through the legislature. No real news to report. We did get our FEMA approval this week under the CRS rating, so we continue to be a member in good standing at a rating of 9 to give the citizens of Milford who have flood insurance a 5% discount on their flood insurance premium. MS4 also is nearly ready and should be going to the mayor for signature next week, and we'll get to DEP timely for its April 1st deadline. Your reference page and the links TAP has provided. The Bolt Lane permit for the garage you approved at the last meeting has been taken out. No real other movement. We've got projects moving forward. We've had some issues with silt fencing on a couple projects. Those I get to inspect tomorrow and hopefully get those stabilized. And there's a couple other large projects that are circling but have not landed yet. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions for me?
Okay, seeing none, I do have just a comment and maybe a request, Mayor Rose, on your point about the flood, the hazard, the hazard certification.
The community rating system FEMA certification.
That's what I'm referring to. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to kind of comment that that's really important in things that we're doing, and adherence to certain standards affects that rating, does it not?
It does. This used to be work that the city assistant city planner did, and it's kind of fallen to me through the hazard mitigation working group. This year we are scheduled to go through a community action visit, which is a significant amount of work to show that many departments and staff are doing a number of things that all help inform folks about flood risk and help the city become more flood resilient and help people's homes be safer so that they can have more flood resiliency and less flood risk. And it's a series of 19 activities that we need to address and go through and report on and have backup paperwork and wrangle. So that's something we have to look forward to doing this year. But so far this year, we've just had to submit the elevation certificates for projects that the building department has closed out. And those elevations were submitted. Some had to be corrected. They've all been submitted correctly, and therefore we retain our rating of 9. And anyone who has a home in a flood zone should check and make sure that they're getting a 5% discount. And if you're on your flood insurance, and if you're not, please let me or Joe Griffith know, and we'll look into if there may be a form that has to be filed if you were recently elevated, and we can work on that for you.
That's a good public broadcasting announcement for those that might be listening. And I just want to comment that, again, this agency's participation in the ecosystem of, contributing to, and the actions we take on applications are really important as it relates to this rating system. It's all connected. We talked about that in one of the applications this evening. And moving on, if there's no other comments to Mayor Rose's staff report, I just want to move on to chair report and thank Mr. Black and Mr. Ritchie for completing the training so quickly and so effectively. Really want to thank everybody for the participation this evening, and especially thanks to those that made suggestions during the violation, and really appreciate Mr. Connors and Mr. Fields' expertise in the last conversation. It was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Much appreciated. With that in mind, the next meeting is April 3rd, 2024. And if there's no other business, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion, Brendan.
Motion's been made. We have a second?
I second the motion.
We've got a second. Lisa, roll call vote.
Daniel Bedecker,
Aye.
Ranjit Bahav,
Aye.
Brian Black,
Aye.
Jim Connors,
That was an aye.
Buddy Field,
Aye.
Steve Munson,
Aye.
Nick Ritchie,
Aye.
Julie Valvo,
Aye.
Brendan Magnan.
Aye. Motion carries. Thanks, everybody, for your time this evening. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Two.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Enjoy the rest of your night.
Night all.
Night, Steve.